right, it is 7:32 p.m. on Tuesday, August 25th, 2026. Good evening. My name is Christian Klein. I'm the chair of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals, and I am calling this meeting of the board to order. I'd first like to confirm that all members and anticipated officials are present. So from the Zoning Board of Appeals, we have Roger DuPont
Here.
and Venkat Hully
Here.
and Adam LeBlanc.
Here.
And Mr. Hanlon is unable to join us this evening. Is Nick Rosenberg? Has he been able to? Hoping that he can join us. So we are a 5-member board. So a positive vote requires a vote of 4 members. At present, we have 4 members. So we will not be voting on any decisions tonight. So it shouldn't hamper our progress tonight. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that. Appearing on behalf of the town, we have Colleen Ralston, our clerk and zoning assistant.
Here.
And then checking on the dockets for this evening, docket 3912 15 Melrose Street, of Catherine and James Fleming.
Hi.
Good to have you with us. And for docket 3913 15 Beck Road, Peter Meridianis and Mary Winstanley O'Connor.
Here.
Here.
Good to have you both with us as well.
Thank you.
So tonight's meeting of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with the bill signed by Governor Healy on March 28, 2025, which extended temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to June 30th, 2027. Extension of these provisions allows public bodies to hold their meetings remotely by providing live, adequate alternative means of public access to the deliberations. This meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast by ACMi. Members of the public who are participating via Zoom and who wish to offer public comment should be aware that they will be asked to provide their full name and address so that a complete public record of the meeting can be taken in accordance with state law. All participants of this meeting are advised that people may be listening to the meeting without offering public comment, and those people are not required to identify themselves. Any votes that are taken this evening will be conducted by roll call vote. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. And as chair, I reserve the right to take items out of order in the interest of promoting an orderly meeting. As the board will be taking up new business at this meeting, as chair, I make the following land acknowledgement. Whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington, Massachusetts discusses and arbitrates the use of land in Arlington, formerly known as Menotomy, an Algonquin word meaning swift waters, the board hereby acknowledges that the town of Arlington is located on the ancestral lands of the Massachusetts tribe, the tribe of indigenous peoples from whom the colony, province, and commonwealth have taken their names. We pay our respects to the ancestral bloodline of the Massachusetts tribe and their descendants who still inhabit historic Massachusetts territories today. So to start tonight's meeting, there's the posted agenda on the town website. Item number 1 is an administrative item. Administrative items relate to the operation of the board and as such are conducted without input from the general public. Board will not take up any new business on any prior hearings, nor will there be the introduction of any new information on matters previously brought before the board. So item 1 is the approval of the board's minutes from our August 11th, 2026 meeting. These are minutes that were prepared by Ms. Ralston, distributed to the board for questions and comments, and final version posted back last week. Are there any additional questions or comments as they relate to the minutes from our August 11th meeting? Seeing none, I move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington approve the minutes from the August 11th, 2026 meeting of the board.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. So roll call vote of those present. Mr. DuPont.
Yes.
Mr. Holly.
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so the minutes are approved. That is the last of our administrative items. That brings us to our hearings for this evening. Before opening tonight's meeting for public hearings, here are some ground rules for clear and effective conduct of tonight's business. After I announce each agenda item, I will ask the applicant to introduce themselves and to make their presentation to the board. I'll then request that members of the board ask what questions they have on the proposal. And after the board's questions have been answered, I will open the meeting for public comment. At the conclusion of public comment, the board will deliberate and vote to either continue or to close the public hearing. All votes will be conducted by roll call vote. The final vote on any matter before the board will be taken at a subsequent meeting once the written decision has been drafted and provided to the board. After the decision has been adopted and signed, the decision will be filed with the town clerk, starting the 20-day appeal period under state law. After that time, the applicant may proceed with their building permit. However, under state law, no decision granted by this board shall take effect until a certified copy of the final decision has been filed with and recorded at the Middlesex County South Registry of Deeds in Cambridge by the applicant. So with that, going back to our agenda, the next item is number 2, which is docket 3912, 15 Melrose Street. So if I could go ahead and ask the applicants to introduce themselves and tell us what they're proposing to do.
Hello, just go for it.
Go for it.
Cool. Catherine sorry, James and
I am Catherine.
Catherine. Basically what we're proposing to do is to put a roof over the second floor porch and to make the back porch large enough that we can do basically family dinners on the back porch. What we have right now is about maybe 5 feet of usable depth on the back porch, and we're hoping to increase that to something more like 8 or 9 before you get to like the structure of the porch. The other thing that's unusual about the porch is that we're doing an underground storage space that goes underneath the first floor porch. And the reason for that is we have a garage on the property that we use to like store garden tools and stuff like that and bikes. And if we can make it work so that they can go underneath the porch, then we don't necessarily have to keep the garage long term because it's in pretty poor condition. But we don't have a really viable alternative to store that kind of stuff right now. So that's why we're here.
All right, thank you for that. I will go ahead and share the documents. So this is the drawing set that was provided to the board. And so the proposal is so this is the existing condition here in the lower row. So the front porch is open at the front and it's a deck at the second floor level. And at the rear of the house, it is, as the applicant noted, a pretty shallow back porch that's open at the lower level and enclosed at the upper level. And the proposal is to, I believe, expand the rear so that it is enclosed on, not, this won't be made 3 season, correct? I mean, 4 season. This is
No,
just screened in.
it's open screen.
Open screen. So the open porch on the 2 levels at the rear, and then at the front it will be fully open porches at the first and second floor level. The first floor, will the first floor be existing to remain, or does it need to be reconstructed to support the second?
Probably reconstructed to some degree.
Okay.
We haven't opened the posts to see the condition, but we know that the footings are not supported under all posts, and the railing on the second floor, I can basically push it and break it if I really tried.
Okay, let's not do that.
No.
So here is the demolition elevations showing the work to be removed at the rear and the front. And then some structural details, and then some plans. So the demolition here or structural here on the left, and then on the right is the construction. So the roof open second, open first, and as you noted, having some access down underneath for storage in this location here. And then at the rear, again, structural, architectural. So this is in the enlarged on the second floor, and then on the first floor, access to the porch and the house from the rear tenant. And then at the basement level, having bike storage underneath. And then just some ceiling plans, and then the revised elevations. So here's the rear with the porch, the screened panels in between, and the column supporting, and at the front, the open with the column supporting. And then I believe there is some additional um, detailing and some more detailing and some structural. Then this is the existing site plan. With the porch here at the front. And then this is the existing covered, there is the existing covered porch at the rear. Note there's 25'7" from the rear of the porch to the rear lot line. And then is there a proposed site plan? I guess it's here. So go ahead. So as we noted, the existing is 25'9" by 30'8", and the proposed condition will be 21'11" by 30'8". So I think the first question we're going to have has to do with usable open space, which you've identified here. So you have usable open space today, and you
Right.
will, at the conclusion of this, you will not have usable open space. So I just wanted you to sort of walk us through your reasoning behind that.
Reasoning behind, I mean, sorry, can you clarify in
So,
what?
oh, sure. So, is so the is the you're required to have 30% of the gross floor area of the house in usable open space.
Correct, which we do not
And
right now.
so what you're saying right now is that the 788 is
Is not
less than the required 30%.
correct,
So it's an existing nonconformity with
which we
regards to
are, which we would be extending.
okay. And so that will go from I don't remember what the existing percentage is.
It should be in the I forget the name of it. It was the form,
Yeah.
the form we filled out for the application has the percentages.
Yeah. So so it listed it as 55%, which is no, because I grabbed the wrong one. That's why it's
That should be
55%.
that should be
Let's
the
look at the
landscape.
correct application. And so in this one, existing usable open space percentage. Usable open space. Existing usable open space percentage of GFA proposed. Okay. So this has it going from 24.9% down to 0%. Okay.
Correct.
We have that. Um,
Mr. Chair, if I may, Vincent Baudouin, the architect for their project.
yes, please, Mr. Baudouin.
Hi. So I thought I would just expand a little bit on the applicant's reasoning for asking for this change.
Yep.
As we know, I mean, if you've visited some of these shallow porches, especially the back porches, they tend to get the depth is just too shallow to really be used for sitting or eating.
Mhm.
So they end up getting filled with laundry and boxes and so forth. And so what they're looking to do here is increase the depth from, say, 5 or 6 feet to about 9 or 10 feet. And that just really gives them a usable outdoor area where they can put a table, they can have a dinner. So, as we understand, the zoning definition of usable open space is getting cut to 0, but they're actually getting left with a pretty decent backyard that they'll be planting with a vegetable garden.
Mhm.
But the porch itself will become much more functional. And they're also really committed to the aesthetics of it. James in particular has been working with me a lot on the architectural detailing, getting the cornices and the columns and everything just right. So we really do feel like it'll be a huge improvement over what's there and a benefit for the neighborhood.
Okay. So the other question I have about the usable open space. So the definition for usable open space It in, because it's defined as open to this, at least 75% open to the sky. The board typically includes areas such as decks and stairs and open porches within the calculated area for usable open space. Because in most cases, it's advantageous to maximize what that number is for the tenant, excuse me, for the resident. So in this case, um, it's not included in the existing calculation. And so this is just something I want to flag for the board. The board should discuss how it wants to interpret that in this case. Um, because we have often said that the usable open space goes to the rear wall of the house if it's an open porch. And in that case, I think you would actually have the required amount of usable open space, which would become an issue if the lower porch remained enclosed. Um, so that's just something we would have to talk about as a board, and we can bring you back in on that question as we go forward. So with that, I would ask members of the board if they have any questions or comments at this time. Seeing no questions or comments from the board at this time, I will now open the meeting for public comment. Public questions and comments are taken as they relate to the matter at hand and should be directed to the board for the purpose of informing its decision. Members of the public will be granted time to ask questions and make comments. Those who wish to address the board should digitally raise their hand using the button on the React tab in the Zoom application. Those calling in by phone can dial *9 to indicate you would like to speak. You'll be called upon by the chair, asked to give your full name and address for the record, and given time for your questions and comments. All questions are to be addressed through the chair. Please remember to speak clearly. And once all public questions or comments have been addressed, the public comment period will be closed. So with that, are there any members of the public who wish to address this application? Again, this is 15 Melrose Street. See, Mr. Baudouin has his hand up. Are you speaking as the architect or as a member of the public? Oh, okay. So I see no members of the public wishing to speak at this time, so I will go ahead and close the public comment period. So returning to the board, so what we have before us, this is an application to sorry, hoping there are a lot of pages here. That is being filed under section specifically. So this is sorry, under chapter 8. So this is a section, this is a request to in regards to existing nonconformities. So the enclosed front porch falls under section 539D at the front, which, because the porch falls within the front yard setback, can only be built upon by the granting of a special permit by the Board of Appeals. And in the rear, the extension of the porch would extend an existing nonconformity with regards to usable open space as is calculated in the application. And so with that, I think just to address the front of the house first, I guess is very much what we like to see when we are looking for enclosures at the front porch or the roofing of an existing deck or upper deck on the front of a house. Maintains the open feel. It allows the residents to maintain their contact with the street. It's not creating any kind of undue enclosure. It really serves as an amenity and has been noted by the applicant and the architect. They've done a lot of work to try to make sure that the detailing is fitting and proper, and so we appreciate that. At the rear, it's very similar, but the question I really have for the board is it has to do with how the board has been calculating usable open space and whether we should take the calculation as it's shown on the drawings, or if the board has set a sufficient standard that the area of the enclosed porch ought to be included um, in that calculation. But before we turn to the board, the architect, Mr. Bodin, has a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just an additional bit of detail with regards to the rear porch for the board's consideration is that the existing condition is much more opaque. The existing rear porch has essentially opaque walls with kind of single pane windows. And what we're proposing to do is remove the opaque walls and replace it with a more or less open condition with just an insect screen. So the board can decide whether or not that factors into the decision, but the resulting porch would be more open to the air.
Okay. Thank you. I'll go ahead and just quickly share this as well. So the existing condition here is along the bottom row. So currently the panels below the below the guardrail height are enclosed, and the upper is fully windowed. The intent going forward is that it would be screened all the way down. For comment from the board, and especially in regards to calculation of usable open space. We don't, Mr. LeBlanc.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I guess one thing I'm trying to understand is like, where does it put, what's the existing depth of that porch? And then what then that area might be, just to see like, is it actually non-conforming or not already, even if we were to include that porch?
Okay. So what is the existing depth of that porch?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm checking the drawings. The approximate existing depth is about 6 feet, the existing rear porch, and the proposed depth is about 10 feet.
Okay.
Because then I guess to the other point, right, the definition is 75% of it must be open to the sky, right? Then if we were to say, okay, we're still going to include the porch in the calculation of the condition that would be existing after the new porch was built, is that 75% open to the sky? Is that remaining area, is that still the 75%? So I guess there's maybe a little bit of information to have to help here. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Because what's it, 30 point? Because the existing usable open space would be at 958 if it included the area under the existing enclosed porch. Which supports close to 3,200 square feet of gross floor area. And the existing would still be compliant. Still be non-compliant. Shoot, no, it would be just compliant. That's the problem. So it'd be 3194 and the exist is 3166. So it, so I guess my question for the board is, I think we have two options here. We can accept the usable open space depth as presented on the plans, and move forward with that. Or if we feel that the usable open space should be to the rear wall of the building, it is currently compliant with usable open space. And if they were to proceed with their project and have the porch screened in, I think at the first floor level, it would we would now have this issue of all of a sudden now not having usable open space. But if it was not screened at the lowest level, then the existing condition and the proposed condition for usable open space would be identical. Because both would be open and it would not be more than 25% of the area for the usable open space.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. LeBlanc.
I guess, would we consider a screened in porch to be enclosed? Because to me, that still is open. So then I guess it doesn't change what the usable open space is. Because I guess I'm of the mind right now of, I think what is being asked here is entirely reasonable, and
Absolutely.
I think we would be having a much different conversation if if this was trying to extend with a full addition of the back porch versus we're actually just reconstructing porches here. To me, it's just very straightforward.
Okay.
And I also don't want to go against other precedent that maybe we've been doing, but
Right.
here it's a very reasonable ask, I think.
Okay. So I guess then my question for the board would be, are there any members of the board who would not accept a position of the board where we say that the usable open space does include the area of the existing steps and porch at the rear. So it's that larger number, which is 958 square feet. But in the final position where the first floor porch is open but screened, that does not remove it from the area that can be considered for usable open space. And therefore, the usable open space is not changed by the screening of the reconstruction and screening of the porch.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. DuPont.
I would embrace that position. That it does not, that the being screened in does not mean that it is no longer open.
Okay. All right.
Second that.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Holly. Are there any other questions or concerns from the board? Seeing none. So there's sort of two parts to what the board is looking to approve. So starting at the front of the property, this is the enclosure building above within the front yard setback, which is under 539D, which requires a special permit. There are no special findings that are required for that determination. And then at the rear, this is now effectively approvable by right because we have determined that it is not affecting the usable open space. So there currently is no nonconformity that is being extended as this project by the proposed construction as we are considering the usable open space. So with that, we are just confined to the findings that are required under section 333 of the zoning bylaw. The primary finding is that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts. So I think in this case, and certainly by the testimony of the members of the board, there are tremendous benefits to a project such as this in allowing the family to better enjoy their home and enjoy the company of the outdoors and their neighbors. And there really are very few adverse effects that would come by such a proposal. In support of that, there are 7 subsidiary findings. The first is the requested use is allowed by special permit in the district. As we noted, the special permit that's required is for the enclosure of a porch, which is allowable by special permit under section 539D. The requested use is essential or desirable to the public convenience or welfare. The desirability here is that it allows the family to continue to utilize the home and to better enjoy the outdoors of the home and to enjoy the benefits of proximity to their neighbors and to have especially nowadays a place where you can be outside and have it screened in to avoid the pests of mosquitoes and the like. Um, the next is that the requested use will not create undue traffic congestion or impair pedestrian safety. The porch remains unenclosed at the lower level, which is the closest part to the street and the sidewalk, and will not in any way cause any undue traffic congestion or be an impediment to safety. The next is that it will not overload any public system. There will not be any sort of increases that would affect the public system. Special regulations for the requested use are fulfilled. There are no special regulations for this requested use. The requested use will not impair the character or integrity of the district. As had been noted earlier by the architect, the applicants have taken real care to make sure that this is very well detailed and well fitting with the character of the house and the character of the neighborhood, and will be a great benefit to the neighborhood. Um, Next is the requested use will not be detrimental to public health or welfare. This allows the residents to better use their home and to enjoy the benefits of being outside, which will have no detriment. And the requested use will not cause an excess of use detrimental to the neighborhood. This will remain the primary use of the house, which is a two-family dwelling, and will remain as such. So with that, I think the board can find that that this application meets the standards for a special permit. Should the board vote to approve, there are 3 special permit conditions that would be included. The first is the plans and specifications approved by the board for the special permit shall be the final plans and specifications submitted to the building inspector of the town of Arlington in connection with this application for zoning relief. Should be no deviation during construction from approved plans and specifications without the express written approval of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals. Second is the building inspector is hereby notified there to monitor the site, to proceed with appropriate enforcement procedures at any time they determine that violations are present. Building inspector shall proceed under section 3.1 of the zoning bylaw and under the provisions of chapter 40, section 21D of the Massachusetts general laws and institute non-criminal complaints. If necessary, the building inspector may also approve and institute appropriate criminal action also in accordance with section 3.1. And the third is that the board shall maintain continuing jurisdiction with respect to this special permit grant. Are there any additional conditions which members of the board feel would be appropriate in regards to this application?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dupont.
So just very quickly, so we're not really doing any finding for the rear as you're laying it out, correct?
That's my reading of this, that because the reason for that needing to be approved by the board was because there was an existing nonconformity that was being increased, and
For
that
the
is
usable open space.
correct.
So the only thing I wanted to point out is, we're saying that as a right or by right, that the plan as proposed is acceptable. That would change if the first floor porch in the rear was closed.
Correct.
Based upon the rationale that's been that's been put forth. So I'm just mentioning that. I don't think that there's necessarily any place for us to put it in this decision, but I would just suggest that the applicant keep that in mind.
Okay. I do think it does make sense to add a condition, I think, even if it's just explanatory.
Sure.
And I'll have to massage this language before we come to a final vote on the decision. But it'd be something along the lines of the board finds that the rear porch, that the existing rear porch does not interfere with the usable open space and the proposed porch similarly doesn't interfere, and therefore a special finding is not required for the rear for the modification of the rear porch. So it'll be something along those lines. I need to work out the final language on that. Mr. Fleming?
Yeah, so this is just sorry, Mr. Chair, this is just a question then.
Yeah.
Is this a this is just an explanation that goes into the decision? It's not a condition that's binding in the future if the zoning bylaw were to change?
Correct. Yeah, because it would if the zoning bylaw was to change, this would become a nonconformity. It wouldn't mean that it would have to be modified in any way.
No. What I mean is totally arbitrarily, let's suppose usable open space goes away at some point in the
Yeah.
future. In the decision that you reach in
Mhm.
the next however many weeks,
Yeah.
is there a binding condition on some future owner then that says they can't do an enclosure if the zoning bylaw has changed, or is it
Oh, I see. I see what you're
or
saying.
is it in there just to saying we don't need a finding because of this reason?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're very clear as to why we're not including a finding for the rear,
Okay,
as opposed to making it something that is binding on how
I
it
see.
would be interpreted in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Um, so with that, um, in the absence of Mr. Hanlon, I will take on the responsibility of appointing someone to draft a decision in favor of approval, which will be presented and voted upon at our next hearing, which is um, it's on September 8th, Tuesday, September 8th. Uh, so with that, I move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Arlington close the public hearing for docket 3912, 15 Melrose Street.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. So then roll call vote of members. We have Mr. Dupont,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So we are closed on 15 Melrose Street. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So with that, we're returning to our agenda. Item number 3 is docket 3913, 15 Beck Road. So I'd ask the applicant to introduce themselves and tell us what they are proposing.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mary Winstanley O'Connor, representing Peter Maradianos, who is the owner of 15 Beck Road. He and his wife live in the house on the next lot at 17 Beck Road. This is another Chapter 8 special permit request, but involves a use. What is presently there is a commercial storage facility. It's a prior non-conforming use in a residential zone. And what my client proposes to do is to change the use from a commercial storage facility for a fee to an office type use. And that office type use would be, apparently there is a significant need for meeting with, and this would only be by appointment. It would not be open to the public. So the public couldn't just come into this office. They'd have to come up only by appointment to meet with my client, to fill out all the necessary paperwork to turn in firearms. For instance, if someone passes away and the decedent's family has firearms that the decedent had, or for people who want to dispose of their firearms. No firearms will be stored at the site. This is to facilitate the administrative portion of this. And I would suggest to you that this is under section 8.1.1 and 8.1.2b, that you need to make a positive findings relative to this use, and that it is not substantially more detrimental, or it does not impair the integrity of the area, and it is not a significant extension. It shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing use. And I would suggest to you that an office administrative type use is a less intense use. There's less traffic and the light coming. I can go through the 3.3 criteria. I think it satisfies all of the 3.3 criteria. It's allowable by special permit. It's essential or desirable, this change of business use, because it is changing something from a commercial storage facility to an office type use. There's definitely no increase in traffic. It'll be less, no impairment of pedestrian safety. There is no bathroom facilities in this garage. Nothing will change on the exterior of this property. So there won't be any overload of the public system. There's no special regulations that apply, and it will not impair the character or the neighborhood. And it would certainly not be an excessive use in that neighborhood. Now, if you're familiar with that neighborhood, it is a significantly industrial type. There are residences, but there are a number of industrial type uses there. So this is what my client would like to do with that property. It would be to facilitate meetings with people who want to dispose of their firearms and fill out all the paperwork. Everything, the firearms will be stored off-site at a secure and locked facility. It will not be on the property. So this is just an office use to facilitate the administrative work and the ultimate transfer and sale of these firearms that are going to be disposed of. This is the type of use that assists the police department in getting firearms turned over and off the street.
Great.
So that would be, and I don't need to get into, I don't think, Chairman Klein, this property that has a number of dimensional nonconformities. I don't think I have to address them because this is just a change of use.
Great. Thank you very much for that. So members of the board, this is very similar to a case we had a couple years ago on Pond Lane, where it was an existing property that had both a residential component and a commercial component that had been constructed in the past. In that case, it was a little there was a little bit different because there was actually a zoning board decision that allowed the construction of that. In this case, there is no prior zoning board action on this property, so the provenance of the building is assumed to have been built by right at some point in the past. But again, it's in a residential neighborhood. It is an existing commercial structure with a commercial use that's being asked to change to a different commercial use.
And I will tell you, my client met with the building inspector, and he concurs that this is a prior non-conforming use and directed him to your board, of course, for the change.
Great, thank you for that. One thing I was just quickly referring, so the requirements for, is there any parking that is available for people who would be visiting this business?
Yes, there are, I think, 6 parking spaces. All that are required are 3. My client will be there'll be no employees.
Yep.
It'll only be him, and he will be, of course, be parking in his residential lot next door. And this would be by appointment, and 3 spaces would be required for an office use, given 1,100 square feet.
Okay.
And there are more than 3.
Okay. Is Beck a private way? Do you recall?
Peter, is Beck a private way?
Oops, sorry, you're on mute. There you go.
Yes, yep, sorry. Beck Road is a private way.
Okay. Okay. It's just to the applicant, if you could just explain a little bit more about what the need is and what the process is that you would go through with your clients.
Peter, go right ahead.
Yep. So the need is I have come across and helped facilitate quite a few families in the past with the removal and disposal of their firearms because they did not realize that they had monetary value and And also, and whoops, sorry, what was the second part? You said just again.
Just sort of what the need is and how the process would work for you.
So the process would be to get all said firearms that are basically that folks don't have, don't need,
Mhm.
or they've inherited, or family heirlooms, things where people like, hey, I've had this a long time, I don't need it anymore, don't know what to do with it, and or also folks that have passed away and people hang on to things. They don't realize that, these things, are also worth money when, funeral costs are expensive, and people are in debt.
Mhm.
So I've helped quite a few families do this in the past where I've brought them to other folks, other FFLs to do this. But I said, I've been in this type of, environment for a long time. So I said, you know what? I should get involved with this. So this is one way to also focus on firearm safety and keeping, basically the weapons out of hands of people who aren't licensed.
Okay.
So
So people would sort of contact you because they have a weapon in their home that they're looking to dispose of. They would leave the weapon at home. They would come meet with you, file the paperwork, and then the weapon would be transferred to an alternate location that has already
yeah,
been determined. Is that a
so the
place in
weapon,
town that's been determined, or is that?
so I would take possession of the weapon. I
Yeah,
would record it in my books per the FFL standards,
yeah.
and then the weapons would go into safe storage and then transferred and sold to other federal firearms dealers out of state.
Okay. Um, so you would So would people be bringing them to you? Would you be going to them to retrieve it? Sort of
It could be either or. It would be better if I could go to them,
yeah.
just to make because if they're not familiar with these weapons in that way, I can clear them for them, make sure they're made safe, get locks on them,
Mhm.
do full inventory, and then yes, and then bring those weapons to the safe storage.
Okay. Because
And the safe storage is off-site.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Just basically because obviously if someone has, inherited a weapon or they find one in their home, they probably aren't licensed to transport it themselves. So would want to make sure that the process doesn't involve them needing to bring it to you. Also, it's been stated that there would be no firearms stored on site. Um,
Correct.
so would they be transferred on site?
So I would go, like I said, I would go to the person's home. I
Yeah,
would collect them, do a full inventory. I would then log them into my books, and
yeah.
then I would take them and get them into where they need to be in the secured storage, and then get those weapons to out of state to other federal firearms dealers for sale.
Okay.
And the paperwork needs to reside in the office. That's why we need the office. We have to have a
Yeah.
physical office location that is also subject to subject for inspection by the ATF.
Oh, okay. Is there a specific reason that they would be transferred to out-of-state sales as opposed to in-state sales?
I work with a fair amount of out-of-state FFLs that, and it's like anything where some folks either have a desire to collect certain things or want different things. Firearms change hands day
Hmm.
on a daily basis by all sorts of means, and so it's just an easier method to rather than it's easier to work with other licensed dealers
Hmm.
versus individuals.
Sure.
So so it's a far easier transaction that way.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was a specific regulatory reason that selling in Massachusetts was an issue as opposed to out of state.
No, I work with a lot of folks out of state that,
Hmm.
that it's just, an easier way of doing this. And I work full time, so this is just something I do on the side, but also it's a way to help, the local community, with, keeping weapons out of unlicensed hands.
Okay, great. Um, are there any modifications that need to be made for the building to facilitate the change in use? So like I can't remember. I believe it just has garage doors at the front. So would you be changing the?
It has garage doors. They are a very strong structure, and there is steel doors on either side.
Okay.
I currently have a full surveillance system installed on my house, and I plan on installing more cameras and around that building as well.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted to, make a point to also know that there will not be any signs. There won't be any signage on
Okay.
this bill.
Great. Thank you. Um, and I think as Ms. O'Connor had noted, this is really just a request for a change of use. There is no proposed modifications to the building that is before the board at this time. Just wanted to confirm that. Um,
This is a very discrete use.
yeah.
Uh,
Okay. So I will turn to the board for questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Dupont.
So I don't know if this is something that we even need to address, but I'll just raise the question. So when we approve a use like this, and this is a little unusual, I would assume that in order to conduct the business, that there is licensing required for you, for the applicant. And so I just would like somebody to speak to that. I assume all of those things, whatever is needed along those lines, those rules and regulations and licenses, everything would be observed. Because we would, if we're assuming that we're going to approve a use for some specific purpose, that if there is licensure that's required to conduct that type of business, that those requirements are met. So just out of curiosity.
Yes, Attorney DuPont, yeah, there has to be a federal firearms license. Whenever you deal with, yes, he has to be licensed. And he'll have to have a business license from the town, of course, as well.
Okay. I just had to look up FFL on Google to figure out what that was. So I assume that that's what the
Yeah.
was. Okay. All right. Thanks. I just wanted to double check.
Sure.
Are there other questions from the board? So as a question to Ms. O'Connor, so this would be an approval for an office use. Would, if in the future this was to change to a different kind of an office, say, it became an engineer's office or, something like that, do you anticipate that it would require an additional modification to the use, or would the board at this time be uh, effectively assigning the uses to office, and then alternative office uses could be um, enjoyed at the site without the need for a modification to the permitting?
Well, thinking that through, Chairman Klein, I would say if it was an architect or a lawyer's office, perhaps not, but if it was a dental office,
Mhm.
something with a lot more, I think it would.
Okay,
That would be my sense, something with, or a doctor's office.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what category it would effectively fall under as a use, and then
I think it would be professional office use.
okay. All right, so here it is. Yeah. Yeah, so this would be fall under business, professional, less than 3,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other questions from the board at this point? Seeing none, I will go ahead and open the meeting for public comment. As I noted before, public comments taken as it relates to the matter at hand and should be directed to the board for the purpose of helping us inform our decision. Those joining us by Zoom can dial *9, and there'll be, or if you're calling in, excuse me, if you're on Zoom, you may raise hand using the button on the React tab. If you are calling in by phone, you can dial *9. You'll be called upon by the chair. Ask for your name and address for the record, and given time for your questions and comments. So with that, are there members of the public who would like to address this application? Again, this is 15 Beck Road. So with that, we have a raised hand, Mr. Steve Moore.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve Moore, Piedmont Street. I have a couple of questions for the applicants for you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Moore.
My first question is, what is currently stored in this storage facility?
Go ahead and forward that to Ms. O'Connor.
It's rented out to various people who store different things in there. We don't necessarily have. Peter, do you necessarily know what they're storing in there?
I believe it's just construction material for the most part.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It sounds like a very secure storage facility currently. I heard the applicant mention multiple times federal licensing and a local business permit. What state licensing is required for this sort of activity?
Ms. O'Connor?
I believe it's only federal, correct, Peter?
Yes, it is only federal right now. Oh, and state, excuse me. And state, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
So again, what state licensing is required, Mr. Chair?
Peter, you got to answer that. I don't know.
Would this be considered a sale, or would this, how would this be considered by the state?
So I would need my my state license to sell, especially to out of state. And this would be this would be a federal firearms license in order to sell firearms.
Okay, so you need a state. There's effectively both a state and a federal license to
Yes.
purchase, to sell. I guess not to purchase, but to sell, particularly.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the applicant currently have such a license?
I do not. I currently do not have the federal license because I need to get the approval done for this prior to being able to get that license. I do currently have a mass concealed carry permit, and I was a firearm safety instructor for 8 years.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's helpful. I don't know if anything is contingent, therefore, upon you getting such a license or perhaps not being able to get such a license. But that being said, this is a highly unique use and somewhat different than I've heard of before come before this board. And I'm wondering, so I have a couple of questions about the use.
Mhm.
So you're saying that no firearms would come into this facility or leave this facility. I knew you repeat. Excuse me, Mr. Chair. The applicants repeatedly requested a claim that nothing will be stored at this facility. But I guess I would ask through you: are firearms going to be coming in and out of this facility? And I'm guessing probably not, except under the applicant's possession.
That is correct, Mr. Moore.
Okay, Mr. Chair, that means that there are firearms going through this facility just now under control and ownership, I guess, post the administrative meetings of the applicant, but nothing would be stored here. Firearms may go through here on the way to a storage facility offsite. So it sounds like that's sort of the process. I'm wondering if we're talking about firearms that currently are only in state versus out of state firearms.
I can't. Peter, can you answer that?
No, I wouldn't be dealing with any. I wouldn't be bringing in firearms from out of state or taking in firearms from out of state. Like I said, I work full time. This is just something I'm doing on the side. This is just to help the local community and surrounding towns.
Okay, Mr. Chair. So it's definitely local community based. I just understand that this sort of operation, particularly when you talk about when the applicant talks about selling out of state,
Mhm.
is he talking largely about the state of New Hampshire?
I don't know if that is particularly relevant to the.
Okay, all right. Well, the reason I'm asking, Mr. Chair, is that I don't want to cast any aspersions on the gentleman and where he's going with his business, because it sounds like this is a need that needs to be filled. I worry a little bit about the fact that in the state of New Hampshire and other states, their use of a particular loophole in the federal law, which has to do with dealer buying and selling firearms, is a way to, in effect, move firearms around through particular uses. And I guess I would ask through you, Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
what is the applicant's process for making sure that firearms aren't being laundered through his business here at this facility under this new use?
Um,
I
trying to-
don't think he's going to be laundering firearms.
No, I
Yeah,
just,
no, I'm trying to just evaluate how to the question itself, because I'm not sure that we can like where the board could condition, you can't do anything illegal, but you can't do anything illegal anyways. So I I understand your question and I understand where it's coming from, but I'm not sure it's something that the board would be able to act upon in its capacity as a zoning
okay.
board.
All right, I understand, Mr. Chair. I would just request that the applicant have clear enough processes defined in his business so he isn't inadvertently, not necessarily with his knowledge, laundering firearms through this facility from folks that are claiming it's inherited when it could certainly come from many, many other venues. Enough said, Mr. Chair. I've made my point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Are there other members of the public who would like to address this application? I see a hand raised. Ms. Nicole Weber?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Just name and address for the record, please.
Nicole Weber, 14 Rider.
Thank you.
So, one, I would have really liked to have this when my father passed, so thank you for providing this, Pete, because it's a really important place to look to do this well. One that I've never handled a lot of this kind of stuff, so it would be good to have it with someone that knows what they're doing. My question is, so the firearm will not be stored there. How far away is your storage unit from your location? So let's say someone calls you at 7 at night and says, I really need to get this to you. Is there a way for you to get it to this other unit, or would you just not pick it up that night and pick it up the next day? That kind of question kind of rumbles in my head with the young population around us.
Thank you, Ms. Weber.
So when it comes to like something where if it's something of that nature, I would want to wait till the next day because I mean, if are you talking about it in like a rush situation?
Ms. Weber?
Grief is weird. You never know when they're going to call you, kind of thing. So I'm just like giving you a prompt to think about, to say, you say it's not going to be stored there, but if someone gives you it like 8 o'clock at night, would you say I need to wait till the next day?
I wouldn't. Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't be. I would set. I'm by appointment only, so something like that would be scheduled for early afternoon. I don't book any late, midnight gun grabs and meets and all that. Nothing like that. No, this is something that I would have in the schedule, and I would be in full communication with the customer, and I would also include sending the customer a sheet of paper with information on what to do, what to expect, and of that nature. So that way everybody is careful. And then I would go there, make sure the firearms are unloaded, clear them, make them safe, put locks on them. And then from there, bring them to the storage facility.
Thank you, Peter.
And
Ms. Weber,
how
anything
far
further?
is that storage unit? Do you know? You don't probably have one yet, but do you have a guess on where you would maybe store these?
I do have a location, but for the sake of safety, I would
Yeah.
rather not say the exact location.
Yeah.
Would you say it's within an hour of Arlington?
Again, I would probably
Okay.
refrain from
Nope.
saying anything just to deter any possible, anybody who may think that there may be, weapons stored at this location, which I'm here to tell the public there won't be any, so everyone can sleep good at night knowing that.
Okay. Very good. Appreciate that. Thank you. Ms. Weber, did you have anything further? She's all set. Are there any other members of the public who would like to address this application? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public comment for this application. So what the board has before us, this is an application to change from one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. And as Ms. O'Connor had walked us through, this requires a finding from the board that the new use is not substantially more detrimental than the prior use. And the board is allowed to attach conditions to its decision should it decide it wants to vote in favor, and those conditions can make sure that it maintains the sense of it being not detrimental. As has been noted too, this is a bit of a different sort of a use, one that we have not seen before, and is certainly something that I think requires from the board a bit of care in terms of the conditioning on it, and particularly in relation to the conditions that had been presented by uh, the sort of the conditions that the applicant had noted that they would, in terms of how they would operate their business. And at this time, I think the board would be, we could certainly discuss how we would want to do what conditions, what we feel would be necessary. But I would ask the board and ask Ms. O'Connor uh, if we were to continue, if I could work with Ms. O'Connor to work out a set of conditions that would be amenable to the client and to the board, that we could then present at our hearing on September 8th. And then have further discussion at that time.
That would be fine with us, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So with that in mind, so members of the board, are there questions and concerns that you have in relation to this application that should be a part of discussion about what sorts of conditions would be appropriate for this type of use? In the past, so the past example that I mentioned before on Pond Lane was specifically to be used as had been a contractor's office in the past. It was going to be used as a storage facility. So there were a lot of conditions that related to hours of operation, number of vehicle trips, things like that. A lot of that doesn't really necessarily apply here. I think it would be appropriate because of the residential neighborhood to have a condition that relates to hours of operation. I think that's something that would be important. The applicant know there will be no signage. I think we would include that as a condition as well. The condition that there would be no storage of firearms on the site. I think the board would need to discuss if they are comfortable with the transfer of firearms on the site, or if that's something that they feel would need to be handled off-site. And are there other elements of this that members of the board feel would be appropriate to consider in a list of conditions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dupont.
So I realize that there are some nuances to all of this. I think from the discussion we were having, the only mention of having a weapon was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that in the event that the applicant, and by the way, if you didn't have the name Mary Winstanley O'Connor under you, I'd be calling you by name.
I don't know how that happened.
So anyway, I don't mean disrespect by calling you applicant continuously. But I do, my sense was that what we were hearing was that clients would not be bringing weapons to the site, and that if there were weapons brought to the site, it would be by the applicant in and under his control. I would not want to see a situation where you had a client driving with a weapon in a car, parking outside on the street, even if the weapon itself was not going to be brought onto the site. So I'd like to make sure, because you don't want somebody stealing a car with a weapon in it either. So I think that the security concerns have to be paramount in all of this.
There are other concerns from the board? Seeing none. So I would move then that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington continue the public hearing for docket 3913 15 Beck Road to Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. So this roll call vote of the board to continue. Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. We are continued on 15 Beck Road. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you. If you'd like, Chairman Klein, I can take a stab at a first draft of some conditions for the board to consider.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I certainly will. Thank you all.
And thank you all as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
right.
Right. So the next meeting of the board, as we noted, is Tuesday, September 8th, 2026. Ms. Ralston, I believe up until now we had no business on the 8th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so now we just have the one continued hearing. And I believe that town council was able to, is planning to join us that evening for our discussion of changes in the state zoning.
Yep, I have it in writing.
Perfect. So what that is, that's going to be a training session for the Zoning Board of Appeals and for the Redevelopment Board to understand the implications of changes that were made in the state budget that changed the state zoning bylaw. So it's a little bit of an odd thing that just happened. So we're trying to figure that out. So that will be a training session. Training sessions are closed. They're not open hearings. So the board will conduct its business that evening, and then it will recess to training at the conclusion of its standard open business. So then the other item that Ms. Ralston and I have been talking about, the board has certain times in the past been less than fruitful in its delivery of minutes. And so Ms. Ralston has done a yeoman's job of creating minutes for past meetings that, assuming that maybe Mr. DuPont and myself have attended in the past, but nobody else has attended. And so there are a number of those that need to be approved. And they're a little quirky because we're approving things that we weren't necessarily at. The procedure we sort of came up with was that we would effectively for each meeting, we would include one of these older set of minutes in addition to the standard minutes that we would have. And we would also provide a way to access the actual recording of the meeting in some fashion. If people wanted to to view the two or just to refresh their memory on what it was, and that we would try starting out doing one a session, and then if it seemed like that was pretty straightforward and going pretty well, we could up that number, but that we would start out with one each time around. Ms. Ralston, is that basically what we had discussed?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. So I think we'll start up with that in September and see how it goes. I'm very curious to see how my memory works for some of these meetings that I know I was at, but a really long time ago. So next on our agenda is the open forum session. If there are members of the public who have issues to discuss with the board that are not related to a specific hearing, you may raise your hand to be recognized. Mr. Moore.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve Moore, Piedmont Street. In what you just mentioned, I'm not sure how that would work in that. How can the board vote on minutes of meetings they were not party to if it was only yourself and Mr. DuPont?
I think the board would have to, I think rather than approve, I think we'd have to vote to accept.
Is that, Mr. Chair, is that a
I'd
valid
like-
action?
I mean, in lieu of anything else, I don't know what else we can do. You know, we don't, these are, you know, hearings that minutes were never posted for, and so we're trying to come back into compliance with the open meeting law.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's a little bit tricky as to how to make that work. So we'll just sort of have to do our best. The other thing we can do too is, you know, we could vote the members present, and if it's just there are two people who are present, then those are the people voting on the minutes. We could do it that way as well.
Yeah, no, it is quite tricky, and the open meeting law has gotten, as you know, quite a bit more attention in the recent couple of years. So I certainly applaud you guys trying to figure out a way forward, because you're not alone here by any means. And it is tricky to reconstruct a past, particularly when membership turns over. But between yourself, Mr. DuPont, and Mr. Hanlon, and certainly Mr. LeBlanc, who's been around for quite a while, yeah, you may get through quite a lot of them. Who knows? Thanks, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Seeing no one else available for open session tonight, unless there's anything else, I would thank you all for your participation in tonight's meeting of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals. I appreciate everyone's patience throughout the meeting, and I'd especially like to thank Ms. Ralston for her assistance in preparing for and hosting our online meeting. Please note the purpose of the board's recording the meeting is to ensure the creation of an accurate record of its proceedings. It's our understanding the recording made by ACMi will be available on demand at acmi.tv within the coming days. Arlington Community Media is dedicated to providing an electronic forum for the free exchange of information and ideas which reflect the talent, skills, interests, concerns, and diversity of the Arlington community. Please visit acmi.tv to learn how to support this valuable public resource. If anyone has comments or recommendations, please send them via email to zba@town.arlington.ma.us. That email address is also listed on the Zoning Board of Appeals website. And to conclude tonight's meeting, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. DuPont. And the second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. So roll call vote to adjourn. Mr. DuPont.
Yes.
Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The board is adjourned. Thank you all for being here this evening. And we will see you on the 8th.
Thank you. Good night.
See you, everyone. Good night.
Night, all.
Good night.